Today's special briefing is dedicated to the memory of 20-year-old Sergeant Natan Rosenfeld, who we knew, and who died in battle defending his beloved Israel, and to the memories of the all too many soldiers that we have lost recently. Natan, our heart goes out to your family. May your memory be a blessing, and may we be worthy of your sacrifice.
The 12-day war between Israel and the Iranian regime came to an end with a ceasefire, but not before the dismantling of critical Iranian regime military and nuclear infrastructure and the elimination of its top commanders. So, did the war achieve its aims? Are Iran's nukes destroyed? And what does it all mean for the ongoing conflict, for the hostages, and for the region in the post-October 7th Middle East? On the show today, an in-depth recap and analysis of the war with Israel's most prominent voice on TV news, journalist and analyst Amit Segal. On YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and across social media, I'm Michael Dixon, and from the Stand With Us studios in Jerusalem, this is Special Briefing. Shalom from Israel. The historic Rising Lion operation has officially concluded, which included a landmark moment of cooperation between Israel and the United States in dismantling the Iranian regime's nuclear program. We'll break down what happened and what's next with our incredible guest coming up in just a moment. But first, some thanks. In Israel's darkest hours, light shone through, carried by people who ran towards the chaos, not away from it. To our IDF soldiers on the ground and in the skies, Toda, you've carried the weight of our people on your shoulders. We will defend your reputation with every breath that we have, just as you dedicate yourself to defending our freedom. To the pilots, those who flew into danger with courage and surgical precision to strike the Iranian regime's nuclear targets, you reminded the world that Israel will protect its citizens with strength and morality. To the Mossad, our silent defenders who work in the shadows, gathering the intelligence that saves lives. Thank you for your unseen bravery, your ingenuity, and your tireless vigilance. To the American forces, our steadfast allies who continue to stand with us against those who seek our destruction, we salute you. Your partnership, your bravery, and your commitment to preventing a nuclear-armed Iranian regime have helped safeguard not just Israel, but global stability. And to our first responders, to Magen David Adom, to Israel Fire and Rescue, to Hatzalah, to Zaka, and to the Home Front Command Search and Rescue teams, and so many more. You were there when it mattered most. You rescued people and animals from the rubble. You cared with reverence for those who we lost to terror. You held the hands of the injured. You embraced the traumatized. You found words when there were none. To the families who gave shelter and to the organizations and individuals who brought food, clothing, and compassion, to those who were stranded as a result of war but longed to get home, to the young people who stand proud in the face of anti-Semitism and attempts to bully you in school, on campus, and on social media, we see you and appreciate you. To those of every background who kept the faith and stood strong with Israel right across the globe, thank you. Together, we showed the world that Am Yisrael Chai is not just a phrase, it's a promise, and we will carry that promise forward together. And my personal thanks to the Stand With Us team for their incredible round-the-clock efforts to inform the public across social media, even while under fire here in Israel. We are so very grateful. Now, let's break down some of the key facts, figures, and moments of the war between Israel and the Iranian regime. Our own Noah Shufutinsky is at the big screen to tell us more. Noah.
I'm here with the recap of the Israel-Iran war. Let's dive right into it. This operation began in the early hours of the morning of June 13th, when the Israel Defense Forces launched a preemptive strike on Iran, targeting military bases, IRGC generals, nuclear scientists, as well as nuclear sites like the one you see here, the Esfahan nuclear site, where you had centrifuges and other infrastructure meant for the creation of nuclear weapons targeted and destroyed. Now, what makes this such a landmark operation is that for the first time in history, we have the confirmation that there were Israeli ground operations in Iranian territory. This looked like special operators firing shoulder-launched guided missiles, taking out anti-air sites, as well as other high-value targets. What this did is enable the Israeli Air Force to use jets like the F-15 and F-16 that don't necessarily have stealth capabilities over Iranian territory relatively unimpeded. That being said, there was an Iranian response. You had over 500 ballistic missiles fired not towards military targets, but towards Israeli civilian population centers. You had over 1,000 attack drones targeting Israeli civilian infrastructure. This left 29 Israelis murdered, over 3,000 injured, and 10,000 Israelis displaced with no home to go back to. This leaves us little to imagine thinking about the possibility and the danger of Iran gaining a nuclear weapon. We are not the only ones to think about that. The United States, of course, joined in this war, joining Israeli airstrikes using B-2 bombers with bunker buster bombs targeting the sites of Fordo, Esfahan, and Natanz. This dramatically set back the Iranian regime's nuclear ambitions by at least years and potentially up to decades. Back to you, Michael.
Definitely one for the history books. Thank you, Noah, with that breakdown. Now, joining me to answer the burning questions as we recap the war is the foremost authority on Israeli politics and a mainstay of Israel's most watched news programs. He's the anchor of Israeli TV's Meet the Press, and he's won an array of awards for his coverage. His best-selling book, The Story of Israeli Politics, which is a great read, will soon be published in English. We're thrilled to welcome Israeli journalist and political analyst Amit Segal.
Amit, great to have you with us. Let's start at the end. Were the aims of the war achieved?
First of all, thanks for having me. It's a pleasure. I believe it was achieved even more than was than expected, and I'll explain. The target of the war, the mission was not to actually topple the Iranian regime, nor to actually eliminate each and every centrifuge. The main target was to actually prevent Iran from being a nuclear regional power. And it was achieved. It was achieved both technically, physically. They do not have the equipment needed for this. They do not have the engineers, scientists needed to actually put the bomb on a missile. And psychologically and diplomatically, would you begin a nuclear project, a $500 billion worth project, if you know that at the end of the day there is a probability that the next US president would actually destroy your facilities again? I wouldn't do it. And that's why I would say that the time frame is at least 3 to 5 years technically, and more than this diplomatically.
Take us inside that first incredible night of war, if you will. What were the steps that were put into place to make the shock and awe of that opening attack, those opening attacks, I should say, take place?
So, first of all, I have to admit that I was shocked to be how shocked the Iranians were, because if you were to follow the Israeli media, not even to hack someone's phone or to actually have a cyber attack, just from following Israeli media, they should have known. Just from looking at Mike Huckabee's Twitter account, he tweeted at 2:30 that he would stay awake all night at the embassy, 30 minutes before the jet fighters hit 10 scientists and 30 senior military officials. I think Iranians had a conception, as we call it in Israel, like we had prior to October 7th, and like Nasrallah had before he was killed. They were sure Israel would not attack. I don't know why they thought this, and so this is one ingredient. The second was to actually have a daily training or a nightly training in the months prior to the attack. So they saw on their radars Israeli jet fighters storming the Middle East from the end of May on an almost a nightly basis. So maybe their alert was not high enough. And the third ingredient was Donald Trump. I think that the assumption was that Donald Trump says what he thinks, that he is the politician with the shortest distance between the stomach and the tongue. And they couldn't believe that President Trump was part of sort of a deception scheme to say that he gives diplomacy a time, that he really hopes diplomacy would prevail, that he is against Israeli attack, leaks about harsh phone calls between Trump and Netanyahu. I think those ingredients actually created the big deception plan.
And Prime Minister Netanyahu's son's wedding?
No, it wasn't a deception. He was supposed to marry his girlfriend, his fiance, and it's gonna. She's not a covert Mossad agent, if you are wondering.
Good to know. We wish them mazal tov. There's so much disinformation online. I've seen AI images of the Israeli towers destroyed. There's similar propaganda all across the internet. Now, there were very real losses and there was very real destruction. But prior to this operation, we were told that war with Iran would result in thousands of deaths, a huge devastation in Israel. That didn't happen, did it? Talk to us a bit, please, about the expectations versus the reality.
If someone wants to believe that Israel actually suffered heavy losses and it hides its casualties and that three Mossad bases were destroyed, I think nothing can convince otherwise. I think it's the same, exactly the same thing like following October 7th, the belief in white parts of the world that it didn't happen, although Hamas actually filmed the horrific murders and the rapes, etc. When you don't want to believe something, nothing would convince you.
And is it your understanding that Israel was satisfied when the ceasefire was proposed, when it happened, they were happy to go with it?
Israel actually supported it. It's not that the Prime Minister Netanyahu surrendered to Trump or out of goodwill agreed to the terms. No, Israel wanted it. I'll give you an example. 15 years ago, the estimated number of jet fighters to actually be killed in action or taken hostages was 40 to 50. Prior to this operation, it was 4 to 5. The actual number was 0. So I think after following 48 hours, if one jet fighter would intercepted in Iran, it would actually make this victory bitter. It's better to win 7-0 or 7-0 than 11-1 or 2. So that was the bet.
And what do you think regional countries now take from all of this? How did they view Israel in the region and in the world?
So the whole Middle East saw this war, and I mean literally. I have friends who are stuck in Greece or Cyprus, and they saw the missiles and then the interceptors. So the whole Middle East saw what was happening. The whole Middle East heard the Israeli jet fighters, and everyone understands what happened here. That's why, in my opinion, it opens a huge a range of opportunities for Israel, be it normalization with Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, Syria, Indonesia, military cooperation, from economic perspective. It's funny to remember now that 2 weeks ago, the French government banned Israel from actually demonstrating its weapons in Paris. Now the whole Middle East saw the exhibition in Iran. So I think there would be people would want to consume the commodity named the Israeli weapon industry.
And the U.S. has announced, we've heard noises anyway from the U.S. administration that big things may be happening with the Abraham Accords, with Gaza, some kind of comprehensive deal perhaps, Bibi going to Washington. What's your insight on this?
About Washington, I think it actually provides, I think that the number one asset for Israel is that there is no daylight between Israel and the U.S. I totally think that what led to October 7th was the widening daylight between the Biden administration and Israel. It wasn't the only reason, but it was an incentive. The belief was that Israel would not survive without the United States. And therefore, when President Trump not only shut the window so there is no daylight, but more than this, actually becomes more Israeli than most of Israelis and attacks Iran, I think it actually pays a huge service to the peace in the Middle East.
What is your impression of what would be the best realistic outcome in Gaza from the Israeli perspective?
From the Israeli perspective, I think wrapping up the war without having to withdraw to the international border would be a great achievement. Problem is, and the tragedy is, that Israel wants Hamas to leave Gaza, and Hamas wants Israel to leave Gaza. And Israel cannot allow itself to actually have Hamas on the borders yet again, because here it's not 2,000 kilometers, but 700 meters from our border. And since we saw how the element of surprise is crucial in wars, we cannot allow ourselves a surprise that can come any minute. It takes 30 seconds to actually cross 700 meters. So Israel cannot allow itself to do so. And if there is an opportunity that Israel stays on the perimeter, thus securing the Israeli villages and staying in Philadelphia corridors, thus preventing Hamas from gaining weapons to rearm itself, I think it opens a window for a new future.
And of course, humanitarian aid continues to be the stick that the international media and community uses to beat Israel with. Why is the launch of the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation so important?
Because don't think about it as humanitarian aid. Think about it as the Hamas budget. Hamas gained 1 billion shekels, give or take $300 million over the last year from this humanitarian aid. It actually taxed Gazans and Gazan merchants for actually selling or buying these commodities. And therefore, it gives it money to actually fund the terrorists, pay salaries, and be the ruler in Gaza. Once you eliminate it and you actually channel it through other alternative channels, you actually make Hamas go bankrupt. That's the reason why it's so crucial. I think it's even more important than occupying or conquering yet another neighborhood in Gaza. It's way more important. And I hope it would be done finally, because the current situation is that on one hand, you kill terrorists and they eliminate infrastructure. And on the other hand, new terrorists are created and paid, and new infrastructure is paved. That's why we should stop this cycle of money and violence.
Now, Amit, you know the way that the government works or doesn't work a lot of the time better than anyone. So I want to ask you a question that I get asked all the time. Why is Israel's PR so bad?
Because we have 13 million Jews versus 1 billion Muslims. So this is one ingredient. The second is money. The Qatari money that is that is invested in the US and in crucial opinion markets worldwide makes it very problematic. We don't have Al Jazeera. Unfortunately, we have Haaretz.com, which actually fosters blood libels against IDF soldiers. But I think the best PR service is just to win. Just look what happened in Iran. Once we end this war once and for all with a landslide victory, if possible, thus returning to be the cherry tomato superpower, high-tech superpower, AI hub, etc., it would help Israel 100 times more than yet another post on TikTok.
Finally, we're non-politically aligned at Stand With Us, but I have you here, so I have to ask you a political question. We're due to have elections in Israel by the end of 2026. So will they happen on time? And when they happen, will the next prime minister be named Netanyahu?
I would say it would be 2026. Netanyahu survived the October 2023 massacre. It was unbelievable, and now I don't think he has an incentive. He has a very convenient coalition. So we can expect nothing better in the election to come. In Israel, you can either win election, which Netanyahu's probability of winning election, 61 out of 120 Knesset members, is not very high. He can lose the election, or election can be tied, undecided. This is if he gets between 50 and 60, because then the other side doesn't have an option because the Arab Knesset members do not join coalitions. I think there is a high probability that Netanyahu would end up with something between 50 and 60 seats for his bloc, thus either going to yet another round of election or having what Israel really needs, which is unity government. I certainly hope that this unity government would be formed, no matter who's the prime minister, because I think it's crucial for Israel to unite. I think most of the troubles that we experienced had emanated from a poisonous discourse within Israel. And I think people aspire for such an outcome.
Amit, let me just give you the final word. Watching our vast Stand With Us audience around the world, people supporting Israel, seeing the international news, unfortunately, where they are, but definitely supporting Israel, understanding who Israel is. What's your final message to our Stand With Us audience as we look back at this war and still ongoing war and perhaps a deal coming soon?
There's a joke in the Middle East saying that the light at the end of the tunnel is the train that's coming in front of you. But I do believe that we see the light at the end of the tunnel, that after 20 months of a terrible war, Israel defeated out of the 7 fronts, 5 fronts. It's working on the 6th, and the 7th, the Houthis would have to actually stop somehow. So I truly believe in a bright future for both Israel and the Middle East. And I think it would fix a lot of the things that we saw, a lot of the things that may make us agonize. And let's hope for a better future. The future that looms ahead is way better than the past that we saw.
Amen to that. We'll leave it on that optimistic note. I know that your newsletter, your daily newsletter, It's Noon in Israel, is available. People can sign up through your website, and people should follow you, of course, across social media. We thank you for your analysis and for your insight. You're so respected in this country and around the world. Thank you so much, Amit Segal.
Thanks, Michael, and keep up the good job.
Important commentary there from the superlative Amit Segal. Great news! You can now listen to Special Briefing as a podcast. Listen to the latest show or catch up with our previous interviews with guests such as Naftali Bennett, Natasha Hausdorff, Yosef Haddad, John Spencer, Deborah Messing, Douglas Murray, and many more. Search for Stand With Us on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, or watch the shows on the Stand With Us YouTube channel. To do the work that we do, we rely entirely on donations from wonderfully supportive individuals like you. So if you'd like to be our partner today, go to standwithus.com/donate. Thank you very much. That's our special briefing for today. Our prayers go out for the safety of the IDF and for every hostage to be back home with their family soon. Thanks for watching, and thank you for standing with us. Am Yisrael Chai.